following announcement has been paid for by the
Welcome to the Elite Mark Order podcast, where we talk about Dynamite and all things AEW related. I've got a PhD in THC. I'm the Doctor of Pot, CosmicScott, and I'm joined by my partner and the co-host with the most, who's got the most from pillar to post, JayV. How's it going?
What is up, everybody? It's going well, Scott. How are you?
Doing really quite well, actually. My personal life is going well, and I'd like to announce I did not have cancer. So fantastic news all around. I know nobody gives a real rats about that, but I do. I do want to mention...
It screwed up the podcast if you had cancer, so
it's true.
I'm for one happy that you didn't get it. So
appreciate that. And I'm sure the Elite Marks who listen weekly... Yeah, I'm sure the Elite Marks who listen weekly are very happy for me, and I appreciate all their support, even though they didn't know. And I don't have it. So... I do want to mention we do have a giveaway contest coming up, so don't forget, do stick around. We're going to have some of those details coming out real soon. If you haven't already, give us a subscribe, press the like button, leave a comment down below about your thoughts about Dynamite, because it helps. With that YouTube algorithm, it gives us a leg up, and we're on our drive to 1,000 subscribers, and we need your help. That's you, the person listening right now. So, hey, Jay, let's talk about that show. First and foremost, I want to talk about AEW 2000. I thought it was a great retrospective and the best news possible. The Elite are still in All Elite Wrestling. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was episode 200 of Dynamite, not 2000, which you meant, as you said. But
whatever, man. Don't get me caught up on details.
It'll be episode 2000 soon enough.
That's true.
We'll have podcast 2000 right behind that. So,
hell yeah.
So episode 200, kind of a nice screw you to the naysayers that said the company wasn't going to last 6 months. Screw you to the naysayers that said, it was just the Khan family is going to get sick of losing money. And well, now the $100 million company is valuated over $1 billion. The Khans would make a $900 million profit on their initial investment if they decided to sell now. So it's a nice big screw you to the haters. Although the haters will say, well, they did what we told them and brought in CM Punk, and that's why they're successful, but whatever.
You know what? I will say this. As far as the haters go, and if they want to take credit for, oh, look, they finally signed bigger guys, or, oh, look, they finally signed CM Punk, I will say to them the same thing I say to everybody. Great. Now the product's fantastic, right? So if how can they then complain? Okay, so you take credit. Fantastic. So it's a great product, right? And if they come up with anything else, so what else? The fact is, everything has problems. There's not one business that runs flawlessly. But you're right. Tony Khan took $100 million investment and turned it into $1 billion in 5 years. That's a strong ass brand. And on top of all of that, he's doing something he absolutely loves, something he's dreamed of since he was a boy, and enabling all of these wrestlers to live out their dreams, doing what they love in front of millions and millions and millions of people. And on top of that, because the Elite did re-sign, we get to have an epic all-in at Wembley Stadium, 80,000 or so screaming fans. That's a milestone that is not going to be forgotten. This is going to have repercussions. This little company, this little pissant company, as Petty Paul has referred to them, the fact is doing significantly better than they want to admit. Warner Brothers, there was a rumor that Warner Brothers was looking at buying the TV rights for WWE. And my argument is they already have better for me, but they already have a wrestling company and they don't have all of the baggage of a Vince McMahon. Why would they want WWE? So I think it's fantastic. I think the 200 retrospective was also a really good episode, because they got to kind of show you where they started, the evolution. There were a lot of stories in there that they responded to, or that they showed. I just thought it was a really cool way to cap off the fact that they did re-sign the people who started the company, the core of the company, minus that guy who left. How could that not be the best news possible?
Yeah,
You know?
it's great. It's great news that they re-signed. I wasn't 100% that there was a lot of things that I thought could have been up in the air, just the way the Elite have been used. Kenny missing almost a year due to injury didn't exactly help his status with the company, and of course, the Bucks and Hangman not getting along with Punk, CM Punk's moneymaker. So I wasn't sure if Tony was interested in bringing them back. I wasn't sure if he was going to bring them back as EVPs. And, just the way the Bucks have been used over the past year or 2 years, actually, with the Bucks, it's like, are they happy in AEW? They make snarky comments like that aren't necessarily easy to pick up on BTE. You'll hear a snarky joke about them not wrestling or them not being in tag matches or we're apparently garbage wrestlers now. You'll hear some shade thrown Tony's way with how they're being used in the company. But yeah, I'm glad to see they've re-signed. It seems like they're happy fighting, or at least traveling to the shows once a week and not having to worry about do the house show tour or doing 3 shows on different nights a week like we see in the in the Feds. So excellent to see them re-signed, and it's a multi-year contract.
Yep.
So it's at least 2 years and could be more.
You assume it's probably going to be very similar. It's probably going to be like a 3 with a year extension, or it's going to be 4 with a year extension. So 5-year contract is technically what that would be. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, the fact is they deserve it. They do draw, regardless of what the haters say. It depends on the types of matches. The trios matches, not as much. But I will tell you, you get Kenny Omega, he could be in the Elite all you want. Put him in some goddamn singles matches. Give me some of the best bout machine Kenny Omega. He doesn't have to kill himself, but he sure as hell can tell a good story in the ring. And why not let him? So, that's kind of what I'm hoping for this next couple, or for this next contract season, call it what you will. Because AEW at 200 starts their next season, call it what you will. So maybe we'll have, some good matches come out of this. Maybe the Bucks get to go back, not necessarily become tag champs, but go back to being tag people and be able to match up against some of those younger or even the champions and have some great matches, bring some prestige back to the tag division, because they really are amazing tag team wrestlers. They really are. When you look at what they can do as a team together, it's phenomenal just how well they flow together. I talk about it all the time. That's one of the reasons I kept watching AEW, is because the people who started it were supposed to be that good. Kenny Omega, the Bucks, Cody I knew, the Hangman Page. These are the guys I wanted to see because I hadn't seen them, because I didn't ever watch TNA because it was a garbage promotion, and I didn't ever watch New Japan because I just never got into it. So for me, their re-signing shows me faith in the company that Tony has, the company that he's built, the people at the top he's still got faith in. He's going to re-sign Moxley. There's no way. He did actually just re-sign Moxley earlier or late last year, if I recall. Made him part coach. So he's keeping his top talent. It does not surprise me that Tony kept them around. So congratulations, the Elite, keeping you on the team. We love you, keep you, and keep wanting to see you. And Hangman, let him go crazy. Let him win a couple championships, or let him drink on camera again. He was a great character when he was doing that.
Yeah, Hangman was definitely most over when he was drinking beer out of the crowd and things like that. He didn't seem comfortable playing that role, however, and I guess he doesn't want to do it, but he's got to do something to get himself back up to the top of the card again. So hopefully he can figure out something, because I like watching Hangman in main event. He's an excellent wrestler, and he should have plenty of more opportunities to come. And like you said, Moxley did extend recently.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, one of the questions I have is, Jay White was supposed to sign with WWE, or apparently that's, or allegedly that's what the rumor was. but WWE is not signing contracts right now because of the recent changes in ownership. So you got to wonder, like, did they make the Elite an offer? Did the Elite have the option to negotiate back and forth? But if the Elite didn't, and Meltzer actually mentioned this too, if the Elite didn't get a really good deal from Tony, they would have just waited 6 months until their contracts were up and then gone from there, to drive up their price to the highest. So there's no reason for them to sign now, unless they got the deal they wanted. And it sounds to me like they got the deal they wanted. So that's great.
Yeah. And good on them. They deserve it. They put in the hard work. They help build a company. That's the payoff, is you get rewarded with contracts.
Yeah, one more note that I think you might find interesting, and I'd like to hear your take on it. So, Wrestling Observer said that the Elite, the four of them, have an agreement that no matter what, they were going to stick together. And it was going to be decided, if they had different ideas on where they wanted to go, it was going to be decided with a vote. So
I heard that.
How do you think that voting process worked? Do the Bucks get 2 votes? Or just 1, because otherwise the Bucks would have 50% of the control of the Elite.
Well, that's assuming that they always agree with each other. Well, and having a brother myself, I can say 100% that's not ever going to happen. So sometimes you disagree with your brother. You don't agree on absolutely everything. So I can't call it a guaranteed block vote. I mean, otherwise 2 people, they get 50% of a vote. What if Nick doesn't agree with what Matt's doing? What if Matt agrees to, I don't know, represent Wendy's, and Nick goes out and gets a $28 million loan? And now he's $28 million in the hole because Matt fucked up the deal.
Nick would probably be pretty upset about that.
That's what I'm saying. So would Hangman. So that's where the voting comes in. I assume they probably get, like 14 shares each. So that way, when you get into the counting, you could get it really mixed up. If you have, like, say, I have no fucking idea where I'm going with this. Anyways, that's what happens sometimes. When you're the Doctor of Pot, you get lost.
Right.
So don't forget, you can also join the conversation and get all the best news and insider information by joining us for free in the Discord and becoming an Elite Mark. Just go to EliteMarkOrder.com, click on Join the Discord, or click on the link in the description down below. So, did you want to move on to the spot of the week? I think it's probably best we move on to something.
Let's do that.
The spot of the week for me, let's actually talk about the spot of the week. It is brought to you by our sponsor, Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Don't forget, you can use the link in the description down below when you're booking your trip to Chicago for All Out. Booking.com has guaranteed the best pricing with a price match guarantee. Click on it, ask them about it, figure out if it's the best price. It absolutely is. They will match any price on any website. So book your trip today. Now, Jay, you're going to that show, aren't you?
I'm going to All Out, not All In.
Yeah, I said All Out. This was All Out in Chicago. Chicago, man, yeah. Chicago.
Sorry, I thought you said, I thought you were talking about All In.
No, All In was the previous promotion. This is our new promotion, and this is specifically for Chicago. So when you click on that link, what you're going to find is it'll bring you up to the hotels that are closest to the United Center.
Okay. So I would do that if I wasn't staying at the hotel where StarCast is happening. So
well, no, you already booked is what I'm saying. But for the people who haven't yet, and it's close, so you want to book now, use the link down below, get a guaranteed best price, and get your trip to Chicago done. That's all I'm saying.
Do it now before those rates go up.
Absolutely. And it's going to sell out, so you got to get tickets. Maybe you should get over to Ticketmaster and buy one, or StubHub, or maybe you could buy it from one of the Elite Marks who might have some extras. That does happen too.
There you go.
So, for me, the spot of the week absolutely is Trent hitting Moxley with the superplex from the top of the turnbuckle to the outside through a couple of tables. It was one spot in a million of bloody, gruesome spots in a bloody, gruesome match, but it was fun. It looked great. The camera got right up on him and showed the carnage. And for me, it earns them the spot of the week. How about you, Jay?
Yeah, that superplex was ridiculous. I did not think it was going to happen, and it did. I mean, Mox is crazy. Trent will do just about anything. It was, pretty crazy spot. I thought we were going to have something top it later in the show, but it ended up not happening, and that was if Kenny hit Satnam with the one-winged angel, that would definitely be the spot of the week. But
that would they teased it. They teased it, and if they don't pay it off one day, I'm going to be upset. But the fact is, they teased it, and I'm like, if he hits it, that's just the entire room will blow up. That crowd would have exploded if he hit Satnam with the one-winged angel. You know that. That would have been amazing.
Absolutely. I was real curious to see what was going to happen if he got him out. It looked like Kenny was strong enough to get him up, but having that whole move work out with a guy that size, I don't know. I don't know if it can happen. I don't know if it's possible. So.
He might as well try to do it to Paul White. There's just really no way. Their bodies are not going to bend the right way to take that move. I will say the runner-up for Spot of the Week was Jungle Boy using a little girl as a shield in the crowd against RVD after trying to attack RVD from behind with a chair. It was brilliant character work and legitimately made me laugh, primarily because Rob wasn't anywhere near him or chasing him. It was... he grabbed the girl and used her as a shield. Now, you're not supposed to have interactions anymore. You're certainly not supposed to be touching the crowd. But I think it was brilliant work. I think it worked out. And the girl, I don't think was traumatized. I didn't hear any negatives about it. So I thought it was a great runner-up. What'd you think of that particular spot?
Yeah, I think it's funny that whole list of banned things in AEW, pretty much all of them, Jungle Boy, getting involved with the crowd, pretty much all those rules have been broken already. So I think that whole list was just a hoax. I don't know. It's just kind of funny. And of course, all those things could have been, but like getting involved with the crowd was not an approved. It was like a completely banned thing. There was no exception process for that, and Jungle Boy did it. But I mean,
I don't know if that. I think it was absolutely no bleeding on them and no sharing of their stuff. But I think you're right. I think physical interaction with the crowd like that was banned. So I don't know, but I still loved it. That's why I'm saying, what the fuck? He did it. So that's why it almost got the Spot of the Week, because he's blatantly breaking a rule right there.
Right.
So anyways, I thought it was just great character work from him. His heel work is so much better than his babyface stuff. He's improved leaps and bounds.
Yeah, his they always say it's easier to be a heel because you can get cheap heat, and it is harder to be a babyface, and I think that's definitely true, especially today. It's not easy to get the fans to cheer you these days. There's a lot of incredibly talented top guys out there, and for someone to move into that area where the crowd's getting excited to see you have to be really damn good. The fans are smarter than ever before. They've seen more talent than ever before. It's not like back in the day where your only option was to watch the 1 hour show on Saturday morning, where were you getting all squash matches. It's like anyone can go to YouTube and you can watch any one of over 1,000 promotions recently, so it's tough to get over. It's tough to get the fans to want to see Jungle Boy was not up to the task. He worked well with Luchasaurus, but when they tried to branch him out on his own, it did not work. So
as a face,
we'll see how he could do as a heel.
As a face, he couldn't really cut a promo. As a heel, he's done much better. His heel work is much better, but as a face, he was so bland. He didn't get much of a chance to talk. I don't think faces generally get much of a chance to talk unless you're already at the top of the game, like Danielson and Mox and the Bucks and Kenny and those guys. If you're trying to work your way up, heels get more mic work than faces. And that's been true for a long, long time, and I don't know why. And it's not just AEW. I saw that in WWE for decades. So there's just something about being able to get over as a heel that is easier, and we can talk about that in a minute because Max makes a point to talking about that. So let's actually move on to the rest of the show. This is Dynamite 2000, and it is coming
200.
From Tampa Bay. 200! It even says 200 in my script. I don't know why I keep saying 2000. Dynamite 200 from the Youngling Center in Tampa Bay. So Again, Florida, the home area of AEW, so the crowd wasn't too bad. Now, that first match was the new pairing of what I'm going to call the House of Callis. Takeshita and Chris Jericho were taking on Guevara and Daniel Garcia. Now, I thought it was a very interesting match. The biggest thing to come out of this match, god damn, is Garcia getting over with that weird-ass dance of his. As stupid as it sounds, it's fucking working.
Yeah. Yeah, the dance is over, and he's kind of starting to use it like an Orange Cassidy hands in pockets taunt. He's going into the taunt, and while he's dancing, his opponents are trying to attack him, and he's evading moves. So yeah, he's kind of like taking what Orange did with the pockets and using it with this little dance. He also does it to scare the referee, which is kind of funny too. So
it's, for whatever reason, this crowd especially popped for it huge. Every time he did it, he was over. It felt like he was from Florida just because of how they were responding to every little thing Garcia was doing. But I got to tell you, sports entertaining as all hell, and he's an amazing wrestler. I think the JAS really elevated Garcia and gave him that extra bit. I think he's truly going to be a star now. He's starting to show his potential. Sammy Guevara started years ago next to Jericho, and he didn't learn nearly as quickly as Garcia has. Great pairing, though. Those two together have really started to have some chemistry, haven't they?
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride with those two. Garcia's always been more of the badass. Sammy's always been a little more happy-go-lucky. We still don't know where they're going with this. Sammy was teasing the face turn, a straight face turn with Darby. Garcia still seems to want to break the rules. Garcia did not want to. Garcia wanted to be a sports entertainer and stay with Jericho instead of going into the Blackpool Combat Club. At least that's what they said on TV.
That was the story.
Would have rather gone into the BCC and which I think Garcia would be better than Yuta in the BCC. Garcia has kind of like that. He's got kind of like a badass look, kind of like Randy Orton, I think, where he just looks like the cerebral assassin type. And I know that's not Orton, that's Triple H, but he just has this. I think Garcia's got a great look, and he's got a great heel look and a great badass look. But he's made the most of what he's been given. They gave him a huge push by giving him a submission victory over Bryan Danielson, and that's why his finisher is called the Dragon Slayer.
Dragon Tamer. I looked it up.
Garcia is also
Tamer.
from the Dragon Tamer. Okay, I thought it was a Slayer.
Me too. Everybody said it.
And he's also from Buffalo, so that moves him up the ladder a few notches for me. So
of course he's your hometown guy, and rightfully so. Garcia is a great wrestler, and that's why I love seeing that he is moving up in the fans' estimation. You can tell, you can see his stock is on the rise. Sammy Guevara has already been positioned as a top level talent, and together I think they could be a really good tag team and keep that sort of sports entertainment aspect together and kind of build on it. I think they have potential to get over as a team and really kind of elevate tag team in AEW. So I want to see where they go. Now, Jericho and Takeshita were not bad. As a matter of fact, Takeshita had his new semi-finisher submission, the Walls of Takeshita, which was pretty much just the Walls of Jericho, wasn't it? Was it any different than what Jericho did for the Walls of Jericho?
Yeah, the difference was Takeshita takes his knee and puts it on his opponent's head because
that's exactly what happened. That's what Jericho used to do for the real Walls of Jericho back in the day. That was what made it so nasty.
I think it was the angle that made. I don't recall Jericho ever driving the knee into the head.
Okay, I'll have to look that up then. I'll have to look that up.
It's the angle of the move. The Walls of Jericho versus the Lion Tamer. One of them was just like almost in a horizontal with the guy's face
Boston
on
crab.
the mat and bent. Yeah,
it was just a Boston crab. The Lion Tamer was just a Boston crab. Or no, yeah, one of the two. I don't know. because he's had so many different things over so many years. One of them was just a Boston Crab. The other one was the high angle that cranked the neck. And I liked that one. And I thought he put his knee on him, but I definitely could be wrong. But yeah, I noticed in the match that Takeshita had his Walls of Takeshita. And then that was obviously named after Jericho. And Garcia had the Dragon Tamer, which was taken because of the Lion Tamer back in the day. So, you know, Garcia's still using that submission in honor of Jericho against Jericho. It was a great match that really told the story of Jericho joining the House of Callis. At the very end, Callis hit Garcia with Floyd, and Jericho was somehow shocked and surprised that the bat he used and constantly uses in matches was used for him to win a match. He looks at Don Callis and goes, "What the fuck?" And then goes and pins Garcia anyways. And so they win. I don't know why he was hesitant or why he was upset with Callis using the bat when he brought the bat to be used. What were your thoughts on the match and the ending?
So I think my favorite spot of the match was Takeshita did like a variation of the Jericho pin, and Takeshita then, and that's where he, you know, from a standing position, he just steps on his opponent's chest and poses. And I think Takeshita did it to Garcia, and then he started doing like Garcia's dance while he was doing the. And then Jericho came in, and we got a good, you know, he did the 1-footed pin with the flex, kind of the Hogan flex, and Jericho got out the "come on, baby," just like the old school Jericho used to do. I used to love when Jericho did that shit back in the 90s, son.
Yep.
So it was great to see. I love the Jericho pin. It's one of the greatest moves in the history of pro wrestling. And I'm just hoping that that before he retires, that he beats someone with it, because I don't know that he's ever won a match with it, but I'm still hoping.
I was going to say the only move that's worse is the Blue Thunder Bomb. But the Blue Thunder Bomb is a legit move. His "come on, baby" pin is not meant to win. He's putting a foot on your chest and flexing. If he beats you with that, you fucking deserve it. So, I mean, the fact is, that's where Adam Cole got his baby. That was his inspiration back when he was a child. And he wanted to be a wrestler. And he saw Jericho flex and go, baby. He's like, yeah. So you gotta love the evolution of wrestling, building off of the people before. Now, he's actually worked with Jericho. I love that full circle stuff. So, obviously Jericho and Takeshita continue their House of Callis association. After the match, there was a conversation in the hallway about 2.0. One of the guys, I think it was Menard, came up and said, "Mandatory meeting next week. You'll be there." That is what mandatory means. And apparently they're going to have some JAS Fallout meeting. So, yay! Jericho's clearly joining Callis, and that's not a bad thing. Who else do you think might join the House of Callis? Who would be good?
I'm hoping Santana and Ortiz come out and crash the party next week, but I don't know.
That would be...
Seems like that should be filed under too good to be true right now.
Well, I'd love to see Santana and Ortiz come out and just be part of like the JAS rebellion against Jericho and Takeshita, not join them. But I don't want Santana Ortiz with Jericho just to be lost again. That would be a goddamn shame. So I'd love to see them team together again. Yes. Maybe they should associate with somebody like Eddie or the Lucha Brothers or anybody other than fucking Jericho again.
Yeah.
So after the match, we had Tony introducing a really nice Dynamite 200 video package. Tony did blink. I hate to break it to people. He blinked to start. He blinked a couple times in the middle. He just has a very my eyes aren't moving sort of stare that I think disquiets a lot of people. He looks more human than Mark fucking Zuckerberg. The video package was nice. It really, again, showed the evolution of the show and really brought them kind of full circle back to Florida where they're, kind of home again. I don't know. I liked the video package. It was cool, and it was real simple, but it wasn't emotional. But I could see that it had a lot of emotion behind it. Any thoughts on that segment? And Tony?
It was funny. I feel like it was just last week I was saying how Tony doesn't really use video packages to go back, any further than a couple weeks. And
he listens to us, man.
Yeah,
he listens
he's
to us.
Definitely listening to the show. He's like, hey, maybe I should throw some of that old footage in. So here we go. Yeah, some good stuff in there.
Absolutely. The next segment we moved on to was Jack Perry, who was in the ring, calling out Jerry Lynn. This is probably my favorite segment of the night. And yes, that's even with Jeff Jarrett on the show wrestling. This was still my favorite segment. So Jerry Lynn comes out and he's like, you know what? No doctor in the world would clear me, but I've got a friend who still wrestles and he's willing to defend the honor of ECW. And out comes RV fucking D, the whole fucking show, to Pantera and Walk, the absolute epitome of ECW era RVD. He comes down, confronts the FTW champion who runs like a child, a scalded dog, to use JR's term. Now, this is the funny part. RV turns around, starts talking to Jerry Lynn, and back comes Jack Perry with a chair. RVD dodges, hits him with a Van Terminator, almost. Perry manages to get away from that. Runs into the audience, and that's when he uses the little girl as a shield, and then keeps running. I thought it was a great segment. RVD has been, for a long time, my number one wrestler. I love RVD. Yes, he's a pot advocate. Fuck you. He is an amazing fucking wrestler. At 50-something, basically the same age as Jericho, same age as me, he's still able to go. And he's an amazing wrestler. I'm happy to see him in AEW. He's apparently been booked already for the next WrestleMania, so he's not going to be around long, but he's going to be around for at least one match, maybe two, hopefully. What'd you think of the fucking RVD, man?
I loved that Tony went out and got the rights to the old song, "Walk" by Pantera. You know, the whole respect. What did you say? It just harkens back to his feud with Sabu when RVD was going from, a guy who just kind of came over from WCW and hadn't earned his respect, or hadn't earned the respect of the locker room in ECW yet. But after that series with Sabu, which was one of the most amazing series of matches in wrestling history, you talk about a great program, and then becoming a fucking ridiculous tag team, like, Sabu and RVD versus the Eliminators. Those guys had matches all around the country that were some of the greatest tag team matches to ever happen. So it was awesome to see that Pantera walk, and it actually brought that authenticity back from the ECW days. ECW chants from the crowd is always great to hear. I know that ECW rescued a lot of us from kind of the circus area of WWF and got us back into wrestling right before everything changed with the NWO and the Attitude Era. But ECW was what brought so many people back into wrestling to help set the stage for the boom at the late 90s, early 2000s.
You look at the evolution of wrestling from the 80s to the 90s. In the 80s, it was literally the cartoon era because they were literal cartoons at the time. And Vince kept that where you had to be big and cartoonish and you had to have these goofy-ass, stupid gimmicks. And then the 90s started. And the 90s really started to take what we now know of as that 90s edge. Everything had an edge. ECW was 90s wrestling. There's no other way to put it. The fact that it was hardcore when hardcore wasn't really out there. It was bloody when bloody really wasn't out there. It was an outlet for all that Generation X angst and anxiety and anger and pain and all that we were feeling in the 90s started to come through in the TV in things like ECW. Now, what I find amazing is everybody who passed through ECW, who went on to become bigger and better. The first appearance of what really was Stone Cold was in ECW. Mick Foley, the hardcore legend, was in ECW. all of these characters, there's so many more. Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, you name it, all went through ECW at one point. And then they got picked. They got cherry picked. They got poached by WWE, at the time WWF, by WCW and Eric Bischoff. Everything that we think of as amazing from the Attitude Era was almost literally ripped off from all of the good shit in ECW. Entering through the crowd, drinking a beer, tell me that wasn't Sandman. But that's also DDP. That's also Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's so many little things that ECW was doing that Eric Bischoff was like, shit, yes, the Luchadors. He stole the Luchadors straight off the ECW. And he put them on TV, and we responded. WWF at the time, WWE now, did the same sort of thing with so many of the ideas that became the Attitude Era. Stone Cold Steve Austin was pure ECW. All of the hardcore stuff from Mick Foley was pure ECW. Everything good of the Attitude Era, except maybe The Rock, was straight out of ECW. Is it no wonder something like Pantera and RVD caused such a huge reaction? Because he was fucking badass. And yeah, he's had some bad runs, but I'm confident Tony knows how to book a legend. And I think this might be a good match because it is FTW rules. Now, how's that different than maybe a no holds barred? Do you know the difference?
I don't know if it's just no DQ.
I mean, how's that different than any ECW match then?
Right. Yeah, so it's just, I just looked it up here. Taz is saying, let's see, it's falls count anywhere, anything goes type. So it's basically no DQ, no count. Just what ECW was, and just kind of how AEW has been for most of its existence. Is the referees let a lot of stuff go,
they do, similar
to ECW, because I think most fans, definitely not all, but most fans don't give a shit about tag teams being out for more than a 5 count. Or guys killing each other outside of the ring for more. Most fans don't care about that. They just want to be entertained. And then for whatever reason, there's all these people with sticks up their asses that walk around and complain that they were out there for 11 seconds and there wasn't a count out. This program sucks. So there's that small percentage of people which I think are they should just be ignored. But yeah, that's an FTW match.
Okay, so no holds barred. And that makes perfect sense. But again, if you're doing it in FTW rules against Rob Van Dam, I said it last week, I'm going to say it again. I hope to God there's a Van Terminator, because the Van Daminator almost hit. He's going to hit that next week. I want to see a Van Daminator. I want to see a real one from RVD, because God damn, there's a reason they put that in the ECW entrance in the intro package, because that is such a badass move. Nobody can fly like RVD. He gets higher than everybody. That's right, I said it. So that was our first match, and that was RVD. Obviously, I'm super happy. I love to see RVD. I really want to see more of him. I'd love it if he stuck around and said, you know what? Screw that Legends contract. I want to wrestle more. But we'll see. The next match.
RVD. Mm-hmm. Just one thing, and so RVD has to lose because this is only a 1-match contract.
Yeah, he's not sticking around. There's no way he's winning.
It's too bad he's going to lose, but because I'd prefer to see him win and then maybe have like the rubber match at All In or something. But
and that's the thing is, if it is 2 matches, then maybe he finds a way to do All In, as losing to the champion or losing to Jack Perry, so Jack gets his title back, and then works WrestleMania. Imagine working All In and then WrestleMania the next year.
Right,
dude would be a legend if he did it in the same year.
Right.
But almost like Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson. So the next match number 2. Was a 3-way anything goes match, which I thought was pretty amazing. Trent versus Penta versus Moxley. And I have one note. I'm not really going to get into details because it was insanity. It was another bloody hardcore match that, surprise, surprise, Jon Moxley was in. He brought out barbed wire covered 2x4s, barbed wire covered baseball bats. He raked it across people's faces. He hit them. He did suplexes on it. He took it himself half the time. It was a brutal, brutal match. The match of the night comes from it. But the fact is, I'm not going to do it any justice by trying to recap it. Did you get any notes at all on it, Jay?
I didn't take any notes last night. I just kind of kicked back and enjoyed the show. I did say I was... I mean, I'm all for seeing the hardcore type matches. There's different types of, there's different levels of hardcore, and it's like,
Sure.
It's like you have a 5, call it a 5 out of 10 when guys are going through tables and there's shit, half the match is taking place outside the ring, and then you get up to like a 7 or an 8 when you're using thumbtacks and barbed wire bats. Like, I was surprised to see them bust out the tacks and the barbed wire bats again so quickly after Blood and Guts. I felt like, in a way, it undermined what we had anticipated and tuned in for a couple weeks ago with the Blood and Guts. But at the same time, I'm not going to complain about it. I mean, I don't know. I guess I really enjoyed the match, so it's fine. But I do kind of question, like, how often are they going to bust out the thumbtacks? Is this going to be an every week thing or every other week thing?
Well, it's Jon Moxley, and it's an anything goes match. They named it that. They didn't say no DQ. They said anything goes. So when you put Jon Moxley in a match like that, you have to expect he's going to bring out some nasty stuff. Now, you say, oh, well, he brought it out really quickly. It was a fast match. It was actually like a 10, 15-minute match. I mean, I didn't. No, I'm not saying you said that. I'm not saying you said that. I'm not blaming you. I'm taking the voice of the naysayers, man. Come on, man. Okay. All right. Thank you.
It was. Let's see. It was a 12-minute match.
People that's what I'm saying.
12 minutes
they do that a lot of times.
TV is too long. Okay.
They do that a lot of times. But but it wasn't a fast match. It was a 12-minute, with a picture-in-picture. But they broke out the thumbtacks because that's Jon Moxley. He immediately levels up the level of violence. And I think maybe that's sort of what he's portraying as his character, that when you give him the chance, the first thing he does is bring in a pair of scissors and stab you in the head, which is what he did in Blood and Guts. So I think maybe they're just trying to establish that if you give him the opportunity, Jon Moxley will bring the violence up like 3 levels beyond what you thought he was going to do. And in that respect, it makes sense that he brought it up and brought him in so quickly and went at it so quickly, because he's the one who escalates. He's the escalator of violence, as it were. That's my guess. I love the fact that Trent got to win. Of course, he pinned Penta. There's no way he was pinning Moxley. Moxley got his finishing move. Trent got to throw him off that, and then he got the win. And fantastic. Great job. Trent got a win. I love that. After the match, Moxley came from behind, started to choke him out. BCC started to come down like they were enforcers for, security or something, but they got cut off by OC and Chucky T. There was some brawling, and it turns out that Chuck was going to challenge the BCC to a parking lot brawl coming up on Friday night at Rampage. That is tonight. And that would be a match I would watch.
So was this match taped on Wednesday? The Rampage tonight?
I assume so. I assume they drove immediately over and taped it, or I guess they did it tonight. I don't know. They had to.
No, I just wonder if they had the match after Dynamite. I didn't look into it. So yeah, I mean, if that is true, then those guys had to wrestle like 2 hardcore matches, like an hour and a half with an hour and a half break. So that's pretty
basically.
rough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because they basically would have just driven over and then it's in the parking lot. So they don't need an audience or much. They just need the camera. Yeah. I think this is going to be an interesting way that they did it. Maybe they had taped it previously, or they're going to tape it like earlier in the day today, like give them a chance to sleep and rest up a little. And then they do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It could just be cinematic. Yep.
Yeah, because they're going to do it as a cinematic, so maybe they'll do it in the parking lot, so you don't know what time it is. They could do it at 6 a.m., you'd never fucking know. So maybe that's what they'll do, is sort of a cinematic style, and just make sure that, because they don't need it live. Rampage sure as hell won't be. So that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Now, the next segment was probably going to be the highest rated because MJF is out there. And he comes out playing that pure, blue-eyed sort of baby face. He retold that story about the quarters and the jocks and the bullies. And then he talked about his rejection AD&D. And basically really getting the crowd behind him. He played them well. He's always been able to play the crowd. And this has been his evolution as a face so far. He talks about that he's a scumbag and why he's a scumbag. Talks about stabbing people before they stab him, hating the crowd before they hate him. Basically, being a scumbag, being a heel is easy. And apparently it is easier to be a heel. But what's hard is being open and being vulnerable, and that he hated the fans before he hated them. But Cole changed all that. He was the man who kind of showed him that he could actually, have friends. Out comes Cole, and he reminds the fans and Cole of his promise. And then comes the best swerve. He says, but you don't deserve that match. And Adam's like, what? I got to admit, I was stunned because the way that they had been building his character and building, you thought he was going to give him a match. He's like, you don't deserve that match. You deserve not a title match. You deserve the title match. And then says, here's a contract for Wembley. I'm like, okay, I like that. They sign the contract, they hug, they pose for the crowd. Everybody's still expecting a turn. Who's going to turn? What'd you think of the MJF segment? I loved it.
I didn't like the first half of it. I'm like, I get it. MJF's the face, so he has to go out and talk about, the time he got bullied in high school to help become more sympathetic. And then he's making up. Well, I guess I should ask the psychiatrist here. What is that rejection thing he was talking about? Was that real, or is that something he's just making up?
No, it's a real thing. It's a rejection sort of thing. And he literally described it correctly. His brain is wired different. So when he gets rejected, he's not able to process it quite the same way as other people. And that means that he gets crushed much more severely with simple rejection. So I don't know how real it is for him. But I do know it's a real thing. I do know it's associated with ADD. And I do know people who have it. They have a very tough time being in public. So I don't think either he had it or he medicates for it or he's somehow been able to overcome it. But it is something that when you're younger, especially, it's very difficult to process those emotions. So it's a real thing.
This is why you should continue to listen to our podcast, because of the wealth of knowledge and expertise that we can provide to you here at the Elite Mark Order.
And stay in school, kids. Do drugs, because I am a college graduate. I do actually have a bachelor's degree, not a PhD. Sorry, that's just my character. But yes, go to college, get your education. You too can know all sorts of dumbass shit.
So is the rejection thing setting up how much it's going to devastate MJF when Adam Cole rejects his friendship?
Well, it maybe that's it. It's absolutely possible. Or maybe they don't turn and they have a knockdown, drag out battle as two faces, and everybody pops at the end, no matter who wins, because two of the top faces are going head to head for the top prize at the biggest event ever. That's kind of Hogan Warrior levels, almost.
Mega powers.
I mean,
powers explode.
when you remember when those two wrestled and Ultimate Warrior won, I was floored. I could not believe, first of all, there was a double champion. Second of all, that Warrior beat Hogan. I was not expecting that. That was big. So
WrestleMania 6, yeah.
Was that it?
6. I think it was. Yeah, I think it reminds me a little more of the Mega Powers because Warrior and Hogan weren't really friends. I mean, they like ran into each other in a Royal Rumble.
They were just the two biggest faces at the
Right, but
time.
Savage and Hogan were friends. They were
They
teaming
were.
up against the Hart Foundation and the Honky Tonk Man, and that's when the Mega Powers exploded for WrestleMania 5, which was the greatest. A lot of people have said was the greatest storyline in wrestling history. Was the whole Hogan, Savage, Elizabeth love triangle. The Mega Powers, starting out at the first SummerSlam and then going into the WrestleMania where Savage turned on Hogan.
What year was that?
89 was, I think, the first. 88 or 89 was the first SummerSlam.
It was 89, and the reason I say that is because that was my first year of college, and our second year. Either way, I had a friend who was working for the local cable company, and this is when I found out about wrestling, kayfabe, and he showed me 6 months. It was currently the Mega Powers, and they were best of friends, and he showed me the cable guide for 6 months down the road that showed Hogan versus Savage. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because back in the day, cable companies, it was just programming. Nobody gave a fuck. It was just wrestling. Nobody cared. It was like they were trying to keep a secret. He worked for the cable company. He had access to that data. He looked it up. And he's like, they're going to break up. And I'm like, no way. That's not real. And then it happened. And then they had the match exactly the way he called it. And I'm like, this is clearly orchestrated from day one. There's no question anymore. And that broke. I was 18, 19. That broke every illusion of kayfabe ever again for me. I was never convinced anything was real because of that. At very, very few times, like maybe Sid Vicious leg break and a few other things in the ring, I'm like, okay, that's real. Most everything else is like bullshit. If it's on television, if they're fucking recording, it's not real. And that's why the more that happens with the Elite on camera, the more I know behind the scenes is fine.
Yeah.
See, to turn that back around, back to what we're talking about. Now, I think they're going to have a face battle. I think they're going to go in as faces. I think they're going to come out as faces. And I think MJF is probably going to retain. But what I'd love to see is an interjection of Roderick Strong and maybe some of the Kingdom stuff. Maybe they form a new group with Adam Cole as the head, Roderick Strong, and then the Kingdom. And their new group kicks the shit out of MJF. Maybe they take the title and start a super heel group. Something of that nature. In front of Wembley, who knows? Maybe they could actually get Tavern and Bennett over.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're going to mix it up with the Kingdom at all. I know that the Kingdom has been teased, but I'm not sure where that might be going. I think what may happen is Kyle O'Reilly has been out for 14 months. I don't know when exactly he had his neck surgery. I know he didn't have it right away since his last match because he had a lot of things going on. He had a bad shoulder and he was all taped up. So O'Reilly is probably due to return soon, and I'm just thinking Cole could reform the Undisputed Era. And I mean, like if All In closed out with Cole going over MJF as a heel with Undisputed Era causing that, you would have a lot of heat on them, a ton of heat, and MJF playing the role that TK had considered for him previously, being the face. So I think there's a chance we see Undisputed Era reform, go heel, and win the title at All In. That would negate Punk versus MJF at All Out, though. But like you said, I think it was you who said, Punk's gonna fight. I forget who Punk's gonna fight at All In. It was supposed to be the winner of MJF and Cole will fight Punk at All Out.
Really, Chicago. A week later?
Yeah, a week later. Yeah.
A unification match?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I'm hoping they do the unification. They might not, though. That way they have a title on both shows, but
I don't know if they're going to do it that quickly because Punk just brought it out and just announced it and just spray painted it. They've got to give that angle a little bit of time, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean it's 6 weeks away I guess 4 or 5 weeks away now. yeah, it's not a lot of time to carry that second title around, but we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping they get rid of it at All Out and unify the title, but I think Tony might want a title on both shows. So
I, as much as I hate two titles, I enjoy the opportunity to have two title matches and two title holders, because I think Punk as a title holder and being able to get people over is good. That was what he always wanted to do. Give him the chance to do it right now before he gets hurt again, and allow somebody like MJF, who is the young up-and-comer, can beat some of the more established and continue his reign of terror until 2024. So I think that right now, having two actually works. And I'd like to see him separated for a little bit longer. So, match number 3 was the Elite versus the best tag team in the absolute world, the best trio in the world. Satellites unite, big hand gang, start tuning up the band. Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, 1 in a billion, and the last outlaw, Jeff Jarrett, up against the Elite. Now, I'm a little torn. This is the Elite. This is the reason I'm watching this show versus Jeff Jarrett, the best in the business, the man with all the stroke. 1 in a billion, Satnam Singh, and Jay Lethal, the man who was, Black Machismo. It was, let's be honest, this was an overbooked TNA match. It was fun. It was crazy. There was some ring time for the giant Satnam. He looked really strong. He didn't shit himself. He got to show off his strength. Everybody else was main event caliber plus. I think the person I would rate lowest in that match is Jay Lethal. And that's saying a lot, because everybody else is just fucking stellar. And they thought they had a really fun match. The Elite, at one point, Satnam Singh got to do a crossbody against both of the Bucks, showing just how fucking big he is. And then, yes, as you mentioned earlier, Kenny went for the one-winged angel, and it got stopped. But the fact that they even attempted it and even teased it, it was a great match. Jeff Jarrett versus Omega is a one-on-one match I would love to watch. And this was great because they had an answer for everybody in the fucking Jeff Jarrett entourage. Everybody got canceled out. Eventually, you had the Hardys come down to take out Sanjay Dutt. You had Brandon Cutler to get rid of Karen Jarrett. I mean, just everybody had a solution for all of the garbage going on around the ring. And that's what I meant by TNA overbooked. But the one match they were in was great. I thought this was a really fun match, and it got to highlight Satnam Singh. And after the match was when they made the announcement that they're re-signed. Hangman came out, got to say they're not going anywhere. Kenny got the line that people are talking about, and that was that they're going to be around much, much more on all the shows. Dynamite, Rampage, ROH, and heck, they might even show up on Collision. I thought that was fun. It was a great way to showcase them and the fact that they are going to be around a lot longer. What were your thoughts on the match?
I was fine with the match. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed the matchup that we've never really seen before. We've never seen Omega and Jericho go at it. The Bucks versus Satnam was hilarious. Kenny playing the guitar with his foot on Lethal's back was funny. But it's like when you go back 200 episodes of Dynamite ago, it's like, what do you want to see on Dynamite 200? Do you want to see great wrestling, or do you want to see sports entertainment? We definitely saw sports entertainment. So it's like,
well, but we also saw good wrestling though. But we did see good wrestling
with the Elite. I would have rather seen Kenny have a singles match. Kenny have a 5-star singles match that goes 40 minutes in the second hour with some stakes behind it. Maybe defending a title, maybe getting a shot, setting up a title shot or something at All In, which is 3 weeks away. Or how about the Bucks having a tag match against the Acclaim to set up a match against FTR or something like that? But no, we get a trios match with a guy who's over 50, a guy who's over 40, and then a guy who's not even a real wrestler. So on one hand, I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I laughed. I had a good time. But on the other hand, it's not exactly what we were promised, but I'll live with it. It is what it is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I also know the next segment you have a lot of opinions. Let me go through this real quickly. It was the Mogul Embassy, who started with a backstage segment introducing a recorded segment. And AJ Fox and, Prince Nana got to kind of show off their speaking skills. Then they went and it was a recording where they invaded Nick Wayne at his home gym, the Buddy Wayne Academy. And they beat Nick Wayne down. They beat the hell out of him. They beat up some trainees. Swerve at one point smashed a sugar glass picture frame of Nick and his father over his head. Nick bladed, bleeding everywhere. They showed off that it was a photo of Nick and his dad. Swerve puts it down and says, "I'm going to leave it here where you found out your father died." I mean, just really sort of heelish stuff. They eventually forced Nick to unlock his phone, call Darby Allin, berate Darby for not calling AR Fox earlier, and they leave Nick in a pool of his own blood. I personally thought it was a good, excellently done, well-staged, single-shot type cinematic, not backstage, but cinematic vignette. Gave Nick more TV time. Swerve's now in a good storyline with Nick, with Darby, really pulling at all these different threads like we talked about. It's sort of Defy wrestlers and threads pulling into AEW. I'm okay with that. Really building up AR Fox and his relationship with the Mogul Embassy. I happen to think that it was a really great segment overall, and the only bad part for me was where the hell is Keith Lee? And why is he not ever going to finish his story with Swerve? Other than that, I thought it was a really good segment. Jay, the floor is yours. I know you have a lot to say about it.
So I like the segment for the most part. Swerve coming in, attacking him at his training ground, and leaving Nick in a pool of his own blood. I think he's good. I'm curious who one of the guys at the training facility was, if it was Nick Wayne's partner from GCW. But the one thing I didn't like was the involvement of Buddy Wayne. We don't need a dead father angle. I thought it was tasteless to smash the picture of his father and then talk about his father dying. I thought that should be eligible for like PWI's most disgusting promotional tactic. It's just unnecessary. Nick Wayne doesn't need cheap heat like that to get over, to get sympathy as a babyface. I just think they don't need to go there. So can we lay off the dad smack a little bit, making fun of people's parents who've died? It's just so cheap and so unnecessary. I mean, there was just no need for it. I mean, Swerve destroyed Wayne and left him in a pool of his own blood, which is one of the more striking images that we've seen in AEW. We usually don't get that much blood. And not when it's, you're dealing with an 18-year-old kid laying in a pool of his own blood. I mean, that in itself was enough. We don't need to do the cheap heat stuff. So that's just my take. But yeah, looking forward to see what comes next. As for Keith Lee, I don't know why Keith Lee is only on once a month. It just goes back to Tony Khan seems to have real difficulty booking guys who are over 250 pounds consistently. So I don't know. I still think we might get Swerve versus Keith Lee at All In. As apparently both of them have talked about wanting that. So maybe Tony will give it to him. So we'll see what happens with Keith Lee, but I don't know.
So you think they're going to add Keith Lee into this segment somehow, into this feud?
I mean, you got Darby, Wayne, so they're outnumbered. So yeah, I mean, Keith Lee coming in would make sense.
There you go. Well, maybe we will get to see some Keith Lee. I'd like to. I'm a fan of his. I have the same body he does. I'm a touch smaller, but generally, if I were a wrestler, I'd look a lot and move a lot like Keith Lee. So maybe not quite the same, more like Top Dollar, but still, I'd like to see more of him because I think he has a huge potential. And like a lot of wrestlers that come into AEW, I don't think he was going to reach that potential in WWE. So I'm hoping it gets the chance here in AEW. Now, I'm not entirely sure why the next match was on here, because it was a Ring of Honor tag match. Aussie Open versus El Hijo del Vikingo and Commander. I don't have a problem with the match at all. But maybe it should have been first. Maybe it should have been much earlier in the evening, because I don't think the audience really cared. They popped for some of the best moves, but they were generally silent for this match. And that's not good. I think that Aussie Open, I think that team is fairly good. Fletcher and I forget the other guy's name. I think they have good spots. There's a big ass bruiser. They were much, much bigger than the Luchadors. They were big guys. They did their classic spot where they got the Luchadors, ran and smashed them into each other. They have some good moves and finishes. I think given more time, they will connect. But their main teammate is Will Ospreay, and he's not AEW yet. Are they signed? Did they sign yet? Or are they in?
They did sign. I heard that they did sign with AEW. Or
okay, because
with an ROH contract.
Well, yeah, I mean that's signing with ROH makes sense since they are champs, but so maybe they just sort of hang out in ROH till Will shows up, but we know he's going to be an All In, so I don't really know why they needed to showcase him so late in the show, but it was a fun match in general. There was a double tightrope springboard moonsault from the Luchadors. That was fun. There was a lot of combo moves. Once again, I'm not going to break it down move by move. There's never a chance that I'm going to do it justice. Go watch it. It was fun. If you like Bruisers versus Luchadors, it was a fun match. Aussie Open retained, but I thought that Vikingo and Commander, they're a pretty good team. They work together great, and maybe we'll see more of them in the future. What about your thoughts on the match overall?
I was really distracted by the fact that this match was happening. It's the 200th episode of Dynamite. People complained about too much ROH content being on Dynamite, and Khan even addressed it and said it was going to stop. And then so on episode 200, he has an ROH match. So it's like, I mean, Commander and Vikingo have been on AEW programming. It's like the match itself would be fine, but just it being for the ROH titles and on episode 200, which is supposed to be a celebration of Dynamite, I was just really distracted by that. I just didn't think it made any sense.
It was odd. It was really odd.
And then all I'll say is, I'm not surprised at who the winners were, and just the kind of the front flip that Vikingo and Commander did off the top rope at the same time. That's actually Kenny and Ibushi actually improvised that move in DDT Pro when they were tagging together, and they called that move the Golden Shower. So,
yeah. So actually, I think Excalibur may have said something about that really quickly. Okay. But yeah, that's again, if you have Ibushi and Kenny in your roster and you do that move, they know who innovated it. Obviously, they did that with permission.
Right.
No, like, oops, sorry, we didn't know you did it first. Yeah, come on. It was a fun match. It was a nothing match, and it was. Again, I'm not sure why it was on the show, other than Tony's really trying to raise the stock of some of these ROH wrestlers and titles. There's far too many fucking titles in AEW. They gotta stop showcasing ROH. I don't mind things like the AAA and the Mega and some of these other promotions because Tony doesn't own them. But he owns ROH, and it's like, those are the throwaway nothing belts. Like, Brian Cage comes out with his trios belt. Who the fuck cares? So, anyways, I agree. ROH had no place in Dynamite 200 so late in the card. Again, you want to showcase them for 200, whatever, put them on first. Do something, but I think it was odd placement. Now, the last match of the night was Toni Storm versus Hikaru Shida. And this is a well-anticipated match. It was Shida. The announcers talked up how Shida was 9-0, 9 wins in her last 9 matches. So they were talking up her win streak. They were talking up her ability to win the match the entire time. So when it came to the final ending segments and Toni Storm hit her with the spray paint and then the Storm Zero, I thought it was over. I thought it was done. 1-2 kick out. Somehow, Shida managed to turn around, get the pin on Toni Storm, and she is the new AEW Women's World Champion. Now, do you think, Jay, that this is some sort of knee-jerk response booking from Tony Khan based off of all the complaints from last week?
I don't know. I think ultimately the issue here is Tony wanted to have Jamie Hayter, who was very popular, very over, selling t-shirts, carrying the title, elevating the division against fucking Mercedes Moné at All In. And now I don't even think he knows what he's going to do yet. He's got Britt Baker causing problems in the back. He's got the outsiders complaining about the booking. And, I don't know.
It's true. Saraya was complaining about that for some fucking reason. Yep. She gets fucking primo booking as an outcast.
Right. And so it's like, I almost felt like this was a punishment to Toni Storm, especially like you said, the spray paint and the kicking out of the Storm Zero was unexpected. So hey, now we have Sheet again. Now we're back to the pandemic era champion who, I enjoyed Shida as champ for sure, but she's not selling t-shirts. She's not making people tune in like Jamie Hayter was. She's not popping the crowd like crazy. So
I don't think it's Hayter's fault that her shoulders hurt, though.
Oh, it's definitely not Hayter's fault.
Is it a big hit? Yeah, I want Hayter back. Shit, yes, I'm with you on that.
I'm saying here, it's unfortunate for Tony that the 2 stars he wanted to have, like if Hayter and Mercedes were around right now, people would be saying the AEW women's division is incredible, it's awesome, and now since his 2 stars are hurt, he's kind of fucked because he doesn't really have any secondary stars behind them. With Britt being hurt and nobody else really stepping up, he's in a tough spot, and the women are not happy either because they feel like they can't go and move into those top spots because they're not booked properly. So it's like you have kind of a stalemate here, and I don't know what can come of it until Jamie Hayter returns, or they bring in Mercedes, but something's got to happen to change things up. And I don't think Sheeta is going to be the one to do it with the title, but we'll see. I enjoy watching her wrestle, so I'm not mad about that for sure.
I like Sheeta. I think she's worked really, really hard at getting her English improved. She cut for a Japanese Joshi, she cut a great promo about defeating Toni Storm and becoming Women's World Champion. I was like, great. Okay, Sheeta's, if they let her cut promos and become a character, I think she has the opportunity to connect. I think a lot of people love her. I think that she has that ability, but she didn't have the opportunity because she won when the pandemic started and literally lost the first big show in front of people. She was never champion in front of people. And I don't know why Tony did her like that. I don't know why they booked it that way. But if anybody has an opportunity to complain about booking, it would be Sheeta. As far as the complaints, there's so many different people complaining from so many different angles. Okay, we get it. Women are a little unhappy. I'm thinking more and more that sign in the crowd, book women's, division better, was not an accident. I think putting the women in the title match was on purpose. I think it was in response to a lot of complaints about the women's division, but at the same time, he does have some really good wrestlers who he can't use because they're hurt. So I don't know where was Sky Blue in all this? Why you could give her a sudden, title win. You could give it to, I don't know, Billy Starks. There's a ton of different directions they could have gone for a big surprise win. And I don't mind Sheeta, but I don't know. Toni Storm versus Billy Starks was a really fun match a couple of times. Why not bring her back? Give her the title. Let's see where it goes. It couldn't hurt. And if she loses it all in, so be it.
Yeah, I don't know what Billy's up to. I'm checking her match listing, but let's see.
I thought she got signed
yesterday. She fought yesterday, and she fought, but she had a month off.
Is she in ROH?
No, she fought for Revolver in Dayton, Ohio. We could have asked Mongo if he went to that one since he was in Dayton. But apparently someone said something about Bret Hart, so that he didn't like. So
you said he lives in Dayton. That sounds like a Canadian.
Dayton, Ohio.
I know. I'm saying it sounds like a Canadian who gets upset when you insult Bret.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of people have a strange love affair with Bret Hart that I don't understand. So,
I guess.
But no, Billy fought a ton in July. Holy shit.
So why isn't she on AEW more? They signed her, right? She got the graphic, right?
This can't be right. She fought as Pizza Cat on July 4th.
Why not? I do it. Christ, Pizza Cat's the best.
I have a subscription on Fight to GCW. I'm going to go back and watch that. I got to stop looking at these match results here because they're spoilers. Because I will watch some of these. But yeah, Billy's last match in AEW was June 25th. She fought a ton in July, and so I don't know. I don't know why Tony's not using her right now. So I mean, AEW can use all the help they can get in the women's division right now. Billy could certainly shake it up. She has more experience than most of the women's roster, even though she's 18, and she's better than almost all of them too. So
a lot of them,
let's get going here.
That's what I'm saying.
What I love about Billy is her work ethic. And I suppose on one hand, yeah, it's easy for an 18-year-old to go out and bust their ass 3-4 times a week and be able to recover. Where it's a lot different when you're 34. But at the same time, at 34, you should be working smarter, so that you should be able to work a few times a week at least, right?
You would think.
So I don't know. It's like these wrestlers that are in AEW that have the weekends off, and there's so many indie promotions right now, and they would be one of the higher, one of the bigger draws on the show, and there no promoter is going to turn them down. But they don't do it though. They don't go out. They don't work the weekends. They don't try to improve. They're just sitting at home enjoying their AEW paycheck and not bettering themselves in any way. So it's like I feel like some of these people who are on TV and they're not working the weekends, they're not working the indies. They only have them fucking selves to blame for not going out there and improving themselves and trying to come up with new gimmicks, trying new things to see what to connect with today's crowd. I mean. So someone like Billy should be given a push and be shown as an example of someone who's trying to work up to be the top of a division, as opposed to sitting home all fucking weekend doing nothing except complaining on Twitter that you're not being used right. So I'll step off my soapbox.
Jay, don't sugarcoat it. How do you really feel about it? Jeez. Well,
hopefully, that rant that I just gave, I'm hoping that the women's division in AEW listens to that, and maybe that will be the turning point for women's wrestling in AEW, because they'll all start, actually putting the work in and making themselves better.
That absolutely seems to come across on camera, because Billy, she's putting in the work. Now, that's not saying Tony doesn't work. That's not saying Sheeta doesn't work, but there are some women on the roster who seem to be coasting, and maybe that's part of the problem. I know Jade looked like she was coasting for a long time. So, Hopefully we can see some improvement. The women were showcased. They did get a title shot, they did a title match as the main event on 200. I'll give them credit for that. I'll just keep my fingers crossed. Let's just hope things continue to improve. And we're in the build for All In. We're at the build for All Out. I'm excited to see where things go.
Yeah, we're 3 weeks away from the biggest show in wrestling history. It's funny, I text my father the All In announcement of MJF and Adam Cole. And on that promo thing, it has the All In logo, and it says right above it, the biggest show in wrestling history. And so my dad sees that. My dad doesn't like AEW, but he is a WWE fan. And so he texts me back. He's like, AEW, he says, this isn't the biggest show in wrestling history. And I'm like, I replied, yeah, actually it is. Actually, it's going to beat WrestleMania 2016's gate record, and it's going to be it's going to be the event with the most sold tickets in the history of professional wrestling. And he's like, oh, wow, that's unbelievable. And it kind of is. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun build up the next few weeks. Hopefully we can stop getting like ROH tag matches that have nothing to do with anything, and we can start building up to this show to make it more exciting. So,
yep. I'm excited. I'm interested to see where things go, and let's see what happens next week. There's a fun few matches. Obviously, I'm going to wait with bated breath for RVD. I just want to see one of probably my favorite wrestler of all time back on TV kicking some ass. And if I could ever get him as a DLC, of course, if we could ever get DLCs, if Fight Forever wasn't a fucking abandoned game at this point, I would love to have RVD as part of an official, downloadable content. And I would love somehow to get the Van Terminator as a finisher.
That would be great to have. It would make the game a lot more fun if they put RVD's moveset in there.
There you go. However, I do have to say,
I could make a more accurate Shane McMahon created wrestler.
Oh, true. Very true. Just because he stole all of RVD's moves. I do have to say, there is one person and one person only who needs to be their top priority. And it's a shame that he wasn't already in the game. And I think you know where I'm going with this. Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett absolutely needs to be added to that game, and it will sell 100 billion copies. Do you know why?
Is JJ for life?
Because Jeff Jarrett is the goddamn best. JJ for life.
Kept hidden, but dry eyes made solace find whether in the sky above or the lack thereof. I just see through the lens I'm given. So it's begun. I finally penciled in, check my name and watch me strive for some idea. Flare into what was then and what could have been. Our guides had still so much to learn. Now decades they've been trying to fill this broken